Good afternoon, and I'm here to speak just a few words. Obviously, there's a whole lot more I could nominally say about a very dear friend, going all the way now close to 50 years of having known my dear friend from undergraduate school, Dr. Bhaskar Rao. But because of time constraints, I'm going to have to keep it relatively short. But here it goes, my few words of timely reminiscences, trying to remember just a few times, a long time back as it turns out, spent with Dr. Bhaskar Rao on this very special occasion where he is very appropriately being received and felicitated by friends, colleagues, and compatriots at the University of California, San Diego. And I, by the way, am Munish Chatterjee from the University of Dayton, but Bhaskar and I go back quite a few decades. So here's the little bit I wanted to say. Once, soon to be 50 years ago next July, the year was 1974, as it turns out, our very dear Dr. B.D. Rao, Bhaskar, to a great many of us, and I, began our journey into engineering and technology at a sleepy railway town in southern Bengal. We had been admitted into one of only 5 at the time leading engineering institutions, the IITs, in all of India. This one, the sprawling campus at Kharagpur. For me, being from Kolkata, about 90 miles to the east, moving to Kharagpur was entirely new in that I had hitherto never lived away from home, and definitely not for what was to be 5 continuous years of study. Bhaskar, however, was one of a small contingent of students who had grown up in Hijli, the rural suburb of Kharagpur, with strong connections to the Indian railways. Hijli had the added significance in that it was a renowned center of India's freedom movement against British colonial occupation, with a detention center which is a national landmark since India's independence in 1947. In India, then and now, being admitted to an IIT meant you were regarded as the crème de la crème of Indian students, especially when it came to science and technology. In this uber-competitive atmosphere, we found ourselves facing new challenges daily, both in the classrooms and outside. Those could be very long stories in themselves. Since the vast majority of us were assigned to hostels, dormitories as we know them here, on campus, Bhaskar had the advantage of riding his bicycle from home since his family lived off campus. As such, I would normally not get to see or interact with Bhaskar more than the small interludes in and outside our classes. However, it turned out that under an IIT regulation, each off-campus student was assigned to one of the campus hostels without having to reside in the hostel. As luck would have it, Bhaskar was assigned to Azad Hall, an old campus hostel, which happened to be the one I was residing in. As such, we would occasionally get to meet and spend time together whenever he visited Azad Hall. Over our 5 years studying for our undergraduate degree, Bhaskar and I happened never to be lab partners. And so I did not get to interact with him one-on-one at the technical level. Likewise, even during at least 3 consecutive summers when we, all of these engineering students, would be required to gain industrial training experience, our paths did not intersect. Despite this relative lack of direct technical interaction, which was purely circumstantial, Bhaskar then and to this day left a genuinely positive impression upon me, and his sterling achievements as an academic and scholar only further reinforce my instinct and impression from almost 5 decades ago. What has always stood out about Bhaskar from the beginning is his obvious intellectual brilliance and his scientific acumen. But well beyond those attributes, Bhaskar came across as an absolutely down-to-earth, exceptionally soft-spoken. You sometimes had to make that extra effort to actually hear what he had to say. The gentlest of human beings. And what resonated with my Bengali sensibility was that even though his family originated from southern India, and here we were in the northeast, he spoke perfect Bengali, obviously having grown up in Kharagpur, and it was easy and spontaneous. As we progressed towards our final year in Kharagpur, Bhaskar's research interest converged towards signal processing, especially DSP, which was then relatively emergent. And to no surprise then, he pursued that discipline when he joined graduate studies at the University of Southern California, and later became a leading researcher in related and more extended areas. My own interest was initially in semiconductors and related devices, even though in graduate school, for self and our batchmate, Dr. Partha Banerjee, it was diverted to applied electromagnetics, broadly optics in general. Bhaskar, being in California, which captured this brilliant academic for good, if I might say so, and Partha and I, variously in Iowa, New York, Alabama, and now Ohio, our paths and careers did not overlap, being half a continent apart. I must also mention that as graduates from the IIT in our batch in electrical and electronics communications, Bhaskar actually finished very near the top of our batch. I think he was either the number 2 or the number 3 in our graduating class, whereas both Partha and I were a few notches behind. In any case, coming back to the US context, during these long intervening years, I have met with Bhaskar probably all of 3 times. Once late in the 1980s and twice in the 2000s, all in San Diego during several optics conferences. Yet, even at a distance, I have followed with admiration our dear Bhaskar's many accomplishments and have been rightly impressed by his dedication to a fine university such as UCSD for many decades. a dear friend's accomplishments add a patina to our own lives. Finally, may I now embolden myself to suggest to Bhaskar that now that he has finally chosen to draw a line on his academic life, there really is no retirement, by the way, to an active and creative mind. Please consider traveling to the American heartland, and when you do, please look us up so we may rekindle our many Indian stories and maybe a few American ones as well, many of which have accumulated over these years. In the meantime, our heartfelt congratulations and continued best wishes for health and happiness for you and all your loved ones. And here is to delightful new beginnings. Shubhamastu and Sarva Mangalam. Namaskar.